The morning sun cast long shadows across the United Nations building in New York as delegates from every nation hurried inside. The emergency meeting had been called without warning, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Tom Miller sat in the back row of the assembly hall, his worn leather notebook clutched tightly in his hands. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, he had been summoned specifically for this meeting, though no one had told him why. His weathered face and graying hair spoke of years spent in the field, studying Earth's most dangerous predators. The room fell silent as three tall, ethereal beings glided through the main entrance. Their silvery skin seemed to shimmer under the fluorescent lights, and their movements were so graceful they appeared to be floating. These were the representatives of the Galactic Council, humanity's first contact with alien life. The tallest of the three stepped forward, its voice resonating through the chamber without the need for electronic amplification. "People of Earth, we come with both welcome and warning." The being's English was perfect, though slightly melodic. "Your species has advanced enough to join the galactic community, but there is grave danger you must be made aware of." Tom leaned forward, his pen hovering above his notebook. 20 years of studying Earth's deadliest creatures hadn't prepared him for this moment. The alien continued. "In the vast expanse of space, there exists a species so lethal, so perfectly evolved for killing, that they have brought entire civilizations to extinction." A holographic image appeared in the center of the room, showing a sleek, dark creature that seemed to be made of living shadows. Its form shifted and moved like smoke, but with purpose and deadly grace. "We call them shadow hunters," the alien explained. "They possess intelligence far beyond that of simple predators, making them even more dangerous. They learn, adapt, and hunt not just for sustenance, but for what appears to be pleasure." Murmurs of fear rippled through the assembly. Tom, however, found himself fascinated. The creature's movements, even in the hologram, suggested complex behavior patterns he had observed in Earth's apex predators. "The Council has contained most of these creatures in a quarantined sector of space," the alien representative continued. "However, as your species begins its journey to the stars, you must be warned. Any contact with a shadow hunter is to be reported immediately. No attempts at communication or study are permitted. The penalty for disobeying this directive is immediate quarantine of your entire species." Tom's hand shot up before he could stop himself. The alien acknowledged him with a slight nod. "Have there been any attempts to understand these creatures?" Tom asked, his voice steady despite the disapproving looks from other delegates. "Any research into their social structure or behavior patterns?" The alien's expression remained unchanged, but its voice carried a note of warning. "Understanding is not possible with these beings, Dr. Miller. They are death incarnate. Your species' survival depends on accepting this truth." As the meeting continued, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The Council's description of the shadow hunters seemed too simple, too absolute. In his experience, no predator was purely evil or beyond understanding. Later that evening, as Tom sat in his small apartment overlooking Central Park, he reviewed his notes. The Council's warnings were clear, but their explanation left too many questions unanswered. Why had no one ever successfully studied these creatures? How could a species survive and evolve if it only existed to kill? His computer chimed with a new message, an offer to join a research station on the edges of explored space. The location was close to the quarantine sector where the shadow hunters were supposedly contained. Tom stared at the message for a long time. The Council's warnings echoed in his mind, but so did 20 years of scientific curiosity. Every creature he had ever studied, from the most aggressive bears to the deadliest snakes, had turned out to be more complex than initial fears suggested. He clicked "Accept" on the message. If these shadow hunters were indeed the galaxy's most lethal predators, then they deserved to be studied and understood, not just feared. Little did Tom know that this decision would not only change his life, but the entire balance of power in the galaxy. As he packed his bags that night, The stars seemed to shine a little brighter through his window, as if beckoning him toward his destiny. The research station on planet XO3 was nothing more than a collection of prefabricated modules nestled between towering purple-leaf trees. 3 months had passed since Tom's arrival, and each day brought new discoveries about this alien world. Tom sat in his observation post, a small platform 20 feet above the ground, scanning the dense forest through his binoculars. The morning mist curled around the tree trunks like ghostly fingers. His digital recorder lay ready beside him, along with his trusted notebook. Day 92. He spoke softly into the recorder. Still no sign of the species we're supposedly here to study. The official mission was to catalog local wildlife, but Tom knew the real reason he'd chosen this posting: its proximity to Shadowhunter territory. A sudden silence fell over the forest. The constant chirping of the local bird-like creatures stopped, and even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Tom's hands tightened on his binoculars. 20 years of field experience had taught him that when nature goes quiet, something big is coming. That's when he saw it. Moving through the trees like liquid darkness was a creature exactly matching the Council's hologram. The Shadowhunter's form rippled and shifted, somehow both solid and fluid at the same time. It moved with a grace that made Earth's most elegant predators look clumsy in comparison. Tom's heart raced, but his hands remained steady as he began recording. The creature was roughly the size of a large tiger, though its shape seemed to fluctuate. Its surface appeared to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an effect like looking into a moving piece of the night sky. Instead of running away or hiding, Tom remained perfectly still. The creature moved closer to his platform, and he could now see what appeared to be intelligence in its movements. It wasn't moving randomly. It was investigating, exploring, analyzing its surroundings. The Shadowhunter stopped directly beneath Tom's platform. He held his breath, expecting it to attack at any moment. Instead, it did something completely unexpected. It looked up at him and tilted its head in a gesture that seemed eerily familiar. "Curiosity," Tom whispered into his recorder. "It's displaying curiosity, just like a dolphin or crow would when encountering something new." As if responding to his voice, the creature moved closer to the platform's support pole. Tom should have been terrified, but all he felt was fascination. The beam below him wasn't displaying any of the aggressive behaviors he'd expect from a mindless killer. Making a decision that would later be called either the bravest or most foolish in human history, Tom began slowly climbing down from his platform. Every instinct honed by years of field research told him this was a crucial moment. The Shadowhunter watched his descent, its form shifting slightly, but making no aggressive moves. When Tom's feet touched the ground, he kept his movements slow and deliberate, just as he would when approaching any wild animal. "Hello there," he said softly, keeping his voice calm and steady. "I'm not here to hurt you." The creature's response shocked him to his core. It moved forward, not in an attacking motion, but in the same way a curious dog might approach a friendly stranger. Its form seemed to solidify slightly, becoming more defined. Tom slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small light sphere, a standard piece of equipment used to illuminate dark areas. The Shadowhunter's reaction was immediate and fascinating. Instead of recoiling from the light, it moved closer, its surface rippling with patterns that seemed almost like language. "You're not just interested in the light," Tom murmured, watching as the creature's form shifted in response to his voice. "You're trying to communicate, aren't you?" The Shadowhunter moved in what could only be described as a nodding motion. Tom's scientific mind raced with the implications. This wasn't a mindless predator. This was a highly intelligent being capable of understanding and responding to human interaction. As the morning sun rose higher, Tom stayed there, carefully documenting every movement and reaction of the creature. He knew he was violating the Council's directive, but he also knew he was on the verge of something revolutionary. This encounter would change everything. He just didn't know how much yet. In his excitement to document this historic moment, Tom failed to notice the blinking red light on his station's communication panel. The council was calling, and they weren't going to be happy about what their monitors had detected. The emergency alarm blared through the research station, its harsh sound shattering the peaceful morning. Tom rushed back inside, his heart pounding not from fear of the shadow hunter, but from what the alarm might mean. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of the Galactic Council's chief administrator. Dr. Miller. The alien's voice was cold as space itself. Our sensors have detected unauthorized contact with a Class X dangerous species. Explain yourself. Tom stood straight, his field notebook still clutched in his hand. Chief Administrator, what I've discovered is incredible. The Shadow Hunter showed clear signs of intelligence and peaceful intent. It wasn't. Silence. The Administrator's silver skin darkened with anger. You have violated the highest security protocol in the galaxy. An extraction team is already en route. You will be removed from that planet within 6 hours. You can't do this, Tom protested, his voice firm. There's so much we don't understand about them. The one I met, I've named it Swift. It showed curiosity, not aggression. It tried to communicate. The administrator's eyes narrowed. You named it. Have you lost your mind, human? These creatures are manipulative. They lure in their prey with displays of intelligence before striking. The extraction team's orders are final. Tom looked down at his notes, then at the window where he could still see Swift waiting patiently in the clearing. In 20 years of studying predators, he'd never seen a hunter wait peacefully to communicate. His decision was made. I refuse to leave, he stated firmly. As a scientist, I cannot ignore evidence that contradicts established beliefs. Swift is intelligent, and I believe the Council is wrong about their species. This is your final warning, Dr. Miller. If you do not comply with the extraction team, Earth will face immediate quarantine. Your entire species will be cut off from galactic society. Tom walked to the window, watching as Swift made patterns in the dirt with its shadowy form, patterns that looked suspiciously like mathematical equations. Then quarantine us, he said quietly. But I'm staying. The administrator's image disappeared, replaced by a countdown clock showing 6 hours until the extraction team's arrival. Tom quickly gathered his research equipment and essential supplies. He had no intention of being here when they arrived. Swift, he called out as he exited the station. The Shadow Hunter immediately turned its attention to him. I need your help. We need to leave before they come. To his amazement, Swift's form shifted and expanded, creating what appeared to be a sheltered space within its own body. The message was clear. It was offering to carry him. Tom hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. Everything he'd learned about predator behavior told him this wasn't a trap. Swift's actions showed protection, not predation. As he settled into the surprisingly comfortable space within Swift's form, he felt a gentle telepathic touch in his mind. Images flowed between them, a vast civilization of shadow hunters. Peaceful yet powerful, misunderstood, and hunted by the Council for reasons that were only now becoming clear. They moved through the forest at incredible speed, Swift's form adapting to the terrain while keeping Tom safe inside. Through their mental connection, Tom learned that the shadow hunters hadn't decimated civilizations. They tried to help them evolve, to share their knowledge. But the Council, fearful of losing control, had branded them as monsters. Hours later, as the extraction team's ships appeared in the sky, Tom and Swift were already far away, hidden in a network of caves that the shadow hunters had used for centuries. Through their growing telepathic bond, Tom realized he wasn't just breaking protocol. He was uncovering a truth that could reshape the galaxy. In the darkness of the cave, Swift showed him more mathematical equations, star maps, and technological concepts far beyond current human understanding. Tom recorded everything, knowing that if he could just prove what he was learning, the Council's lies would crumble. As night fell on XO3, the extraction team reported back to the Council. Target not found. Station abandoned. No trace of the Shadowhunter or Dr. Miller. The administrator's face twisted with fury as he issued a galaxy-wide alert. But in doing so, he had no idea he was setting in motion events that would expose centuries of deception and change the balance of power forever. Deep within the cave system of XO3, Tom sat cross-legged on the smooth stone floor, his notebook illuminated by Swift's gentle bioluminescence. 2 weeks had passed since their escape from the research station, and each day brought new revelations that challenged everything the Council had claimed about the Shadowhunters. "It's remarkable," Tom spoke into his recorder, watching as Swift demonstrated the ability to split into multiple forms before reforming. Their physical structure isn't just adaptive. It's a form of advanced technology merged with biological evolution. They're not predators. They're living quantum computers. Through their strengthening telepathic bond, Swift had been teaching Tom about Shadowhunter history. The images and knowledge flowed between them like a river of information, showing him a civilization that had evolved far beyond the need for traditional technology. "They don't build machines," Tom continued recording, "because they've become the technology themselves. Their bodies can process and store information, manipulate energy, and even fold space in ways our scientists have only dreamed about." Swift's form rippled in agreement, creating complex patterns that Tom now recognized as their native language. The creature projected an image into Tom's mind. Thousands of Shadowhunters working together, sharing knowledge with younger civilizations, teaching them to advance beyond physical limitations. "The Council didn't tell us the truth," Tom spoke softly, anger edging his voice. "The Shadowhunters weren't hunting other species, they were teaching them. But their knowledge threatened the Council's control over galactic civilization." Swift moved closer, its form creating a comfortable space for Tom to rest against. Through their connection, Tom felt the deep sadness the Shadowhunters carried. The pain of being turned into monsters by the Council's propaganda, forced to hide in the shadows of space. Tom flipped through his notebook, now filled with incredible equations and concepts. The Shadowhunters understood things about the universe that humans had barely begun to theorize about. Their knowledge of quantum mechanics alone could advance Earth's technology by centuries. "They have a complete social structure," he recorded, watching as Swift demonstrated by creating miniature scenes with its form. "Family units, teaching circles, research groups. They're not solitary predators at all. They're one of the most cooperative species I've ever encountered." A subtle vibration ran through the cave. Swift's form tensed slightly, and Tom knew what it meant. Another Council search party was passing overhead. They had been searching constantly since his disappearance, but the Shadowhunters' ability to bend light and energy made their hiding places impossible to detect. "The Council calls them dangerous because they can't control them," Tom realized, speaking his thoughts aloud. "The Shadowhunters can't be threatened or contained because they've evolved beyond physical limitations. That makes them a threat to the Council's power, not to civilization itself." Swift confirmed this with a series of complex patterns, showing Tom memories of Council ships attacking peaceful Shadowhunter gatherings, forcing them to flee, spreading lies about their nature to young civilizations. Tom stood up, pacing the cave as his mind raced with the implications. "We need to find a way to show the truth to everyone. Not just humans, but all species under Council control. They need to understand what's really happening." Through their mental connection, Swift shared another piece of information that made Tom's heart race. The Shadowhunters had been watching humanity for years, impressed by their rapid advancement, and more importantly, their ability to question authority and adapt their beliefs when presented with new evidence. "That's why you approached me, isn't it?" Tom asked, though he already knew the answer. "You've been waiting for a species brave enough to challenge the Council's lies." Swift's form created a complex pattern that Tom now recognized as their expression of hope. The Shadowhunters believed that humans, with their unique combination of curiosity and courage, might be the key to finally breaking the Council's hold on the galaxy. Tom sat back down, opening his notebook to a fresh page. "Then we need a plan," he said firmly. We need to gather evidence that even the Council can't deny, and we need to find a way to share it with everyone at once. As he began writing, Swift projected images of other Shadowhunters hidden throughout the galaxy, all waiting to help. For the first time, Tom truly understood. He wasn't just making first contact with a new species. He was part of a revolution that would reshape galactic civilization itself. The storage device felt heavy in Tom's hand as he and Swift made their way through the abandoned mining facility on XO3's smallest moon. 3 months of gathering evidence had led them here, to a place the Council thought they had wiped from all records. "This is it," Tom whispered, though he knew Swift could hear his thoughts just as clearly. The Council's secret archive. They never expected anyone to find it, let alone access it. Swift's shadowy form rippled with anticipation as they approached the facility's main computer core. The Shadowhunters had discovered this place centuries ago, but had never had a way to access it. They needed human hands for that. Tom plugged in the device Swift had helped him create, a combination of human technology and Shadowhunter quantum computing. The ancient screens flickered to life, revealing thousands of classified Council documents. "By the stars," Tom breathed, scanning through the files. "It's all here. Everything they've been hiding." His fingers flew across the keyboard, copying file after file. Each document revealed more of the Council's centuries-long deception. The first file showed the original contact between the Council and Shadowhunters. Not a violent encounter, but a peaceful exchange of knowledge. The Shadowhunters had freely offered to share their advanced understanding of the universe. They were afraid, Tom realized, reading through the Council's internal communications. The Shadowhunters' knowledge would have made most of their control mechanisms obsolete. No one would need the Council's carefully regulated technology if they learned directly from the Shadowhunters. Swift projected a memory. The first attack, when Council ships opened fire on a Shadowhunter teaching center. The Council had called it a preemptive defense against dangerous predators. In reality, it had been a calculated move to eliminate a threat to their power. More documents revealed the Council's systematic campaign of misinformation. They had staged attacks, blamed them on Shadowhunters, and used the fear they created to tighten their control over member species. "Look at this," Tom said, pointing to a particular file. They'd been harvesting Shadowhunter energy patterns, trying to replicate their abilities. That's why they quarantined them, not to protect others, but to study them in secret. Suddenly, alarms blared through the facility. Swift's form tensed, detecting approaching ships. The Council had discovered their presence. "We need 5 more minutes," Tom said urgently, watching the download progress. "Just 5 minutes to get everything." Swift extended its form, creating a protective barrier around Tom and the computer. Through their mental link, Tom felt other Shadowhunters arriving, drawn by Swift's call for help. They had been waiting for this moment. The facility shook as Council ships opened fire, but the Shadowhunters worked together, their combined forms creating an impenetrable shield of living darkness. They weren't fighting back. They were simply protecting, just as they had always done. "Download complete," Tom announced, grabbing the device. "We have it all." Swift enveloped him just as the facility's walls began to crack. They'd moved through solid matter, the Shadowhunters' quantum nature allowing them to phase through the structure itself. Other Shadowhunters followed, each carrying copies of the data they had helped transmit. As they emerged into space, Tom saw dozens of Council ships surrounding the moon. But it was too late. The truth was already spreading. Through the Shadowhunters' quantum network, copies of the files were appearing on every communications device in Council space. They can't stop it now, Tom thought, safely held within Swift's form as they sped away from the moon. Everyone will know what really happened. Through their bond, Swift shared a vision of the future, species breaking free from Council control, learning directly from the Shadowhunters, advancing in ways the Council had never allowed. And at the center of it all, humans whose willingness to question and learn had helped unlock the truth. As they watched the council ships scrambling in confusion, Tom felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The galaxy's most feared predators were about to be revealed as its greatest teachers, and the real predators, those who had fed on fear and control, would finally be exposed. The truth was out, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The Grand Hall of Earth's United Nations had changed dramatically in the 6 months since the truth about the Shadowhunters emerged. Where once only human delegates sat, now representatives from 100 alien species gathered, including several Shadowhunters whose dark forms floated peacefully above their designated seats. Tom stood at the podium, Swift beside him, facing the assembled galactic representatives. The former council leadership sat in a special section, their once proud postures now diminished under the weight of their exposed lies. For centuries, Tom began, his voice carrying through the hall. We were all told to fear the unknown. The council used that fear to maintain control. Today, we begin a new chapter in galactic history. The hall's holographic display showed scenes from across the galaxy. Shadowhunters teaching advanced quantum physics to eager students, helping terraform barren planets, and working alongside other species to develop new technologies. Humanity's role in this new alliance is unique, Tom continued. Our ability to bridge differences, to question authority, and to embrace the unknown has made us natural mediators between the old order and the new. Swift shifted its form, creating a stunning display of mathematical equations that danced in the air. Several other species representatives leaned forward, their various sensory organs focused intently on the complex patterns. The Shadowhunters never wanted dominion over others, Tom explained. They sought only to share their knowledge, to help other species reach their full potential. Now, for the first time in galactic history, we have the chance to learn and grow together, without artificial restrictions. A representative from a crystalline species stood up. The council told us we weren't ready for advanced quantum mechanics. In 3 months of learning from the Shadowhunters, we've advanced our technology by centuries. Others began sharing similar stories. Species that had been held back by council regulations were now flourishing under Shadowhunter guidance. Old enemies were finding common ground in shared discovery. But this revolution isn't just about technology, Tom said, glancing at Swift. It's about trust, about recognizing that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Humanity's greatest contribution wasn't exposing the Council's lies. It was showing that friendship can exist between the most unlikely allies. The hall erupted in agreement. Through Swift, Tom felt the collective emotion of the Shadowhunters present. Joy at finally being understood, hope for the future. They could all build together. We propose a new form of galactic organization, Tom announced. Not a council that controls, but an alliance that cooperates, every species contributing their unique strengths, learning from each other, growing together. Swift moved forward, its form creating a complex holographic display of the proposed alliance structure. No central authority, but a network of cooperative relationships, with humans and Shadowhunters serving as connecting points between different species and cultures. The old council feared the Shadowhunters because they couldn't control them, Tom said, his voice firm. The new alliance welcomes them because we don't want to control anyone. We want to learn, to explore, to discover together. The former council members watched as species after species voted to join the new alliance. Their power structure, built on fear and control, crumbled completely in the face of hope and cooperation. As the session ended, representatives gathered in smaller groups, Shadowhunters moving freely among them, sharing knowledge and forming new bonds. Tom watched with satisfaction as ancient rivalries dissolved in the face of shared curiosity and mutual respect. We did it, he thought to Swift, their mental link humming with shared accomplishment. Swift's response came as a mixture of images and emotions, countless futures branching out before them, each brighter than the last. The galaxy was entering an unprecedented age of discovery and cooperation. Tom looked out at the gathering of species, at the former enemies now working together, at the Shadowhunters finally free to be themselves. Humanity had done more than just expose a lie. They had helped create a new way forward for all species. As the Earth's sun set outside the Grand Hall, its light passing through the gathering of diverse beings, Tom realized that this wasn't just a diplomatic revolution. It was the beginning of a new chapter in the history of all intelligent life, one where understanding replaced fear and cooperation overcame control. The galaxy's most feared predators had become its greatest teachers, and humanity had helped make it possible. 5 years had passed since the formation of the Galactic Alliance. The view from Earth's new quantum observatory showed a transformed galaxy, trade routes glowing with ships of all species, Shadowhunter teaching centers appearing as bright points of light, and the constant flow of knowledge and culture between worlds. Tom stood at the observatory's main window, Swift by his side, watching a group of young humans and aliens learning quantum manipulation from a Shadowhunter instructor. The sight still filled him with wonder, even after all these years. "Remember when they called you the galaxy's deadliest predator?" Tom asked telepathically, feeling Swift's amusement ripple through their bond. The Shadowhunter's form shifted to replay their first meeting in the forest of XO3, now a historic site visited by thousands of species eager to see where the great change began. "Professor Miller," a young student called out, running up to them. "The Shadowhunters just showed us how to fold space. We actually moved an object through a quantum tunnel." Tom smiled, remembering his own excitement when Swift first demonstrated these concepts to him. Now, such lessons were common across the galaxy, as the Shadowhunters freely shared their knowledge with all who wished to learn. The observatory's main screen lit up with incoming transmissions from across Alliance space. A desert species had used Shadowhunter techniques to create sustainable ecosystems on their dying world. An aquatic civilization had learned to manipulate quantum fields to clean their polluted oceans. Everywhere, the combination of different species' knowledge was solving problems that had once seemed impossible. The Council was right about one thing, Tom mused to Swift. The Shadowhunters did change everything, just not in the way they feared. Through their mental link, Swift shared images of new discoveries being made across the galaxy. Species that the Council had kept separate were now working together, combining their unique perspectives to understand the universe in ways none could have achieved alone. The observatory's alert system chimed softly. A new species had achieved faster than light travel and was making first contact. Unlike the old days of Council control, they would be welcomed openly, free to learn and contribute at their own pace. "They're requesting human and Shadowhunter representatives," the observatory's coordinator announced. "They say our partnership inspired them to reach for the stars." Tom felt Swift's pride, not in itself, but in what they had all achieved together. The Shadowhunters had waited millennia for species that would see them as they truly were. Humanity had needed just one person to look past fear and see the truth. A group of student researchers rushed past, a mix of different species working together on a quantum physics project. Among them was a young Shadowhunter, its form bright with excitement as it learned new perspectives from its solid matter companions. "We've come so far," Tom thought, remembering the fear that had once filled the UN chamber at the mere mention of Shadowhunters. Now they were celebrated teachers, trusted allies, and close friends to species across the galaxy. The day's final light caught the quantum crystals that floated around the observatory, a technology born from human creativity and Shadowhunter knowledge. They sparkled like stars, each one containing more computing power than all of Earth's pre-Alliance computers combined. Swift created a gentle display of mathematical patterns, a form of poetry in the Shadowhunter language. It spoke of hope, of friendship, of the infinite possibilities that arose when fear was replaced with understanding. "Ready to check on the new deep space project?" Tom asked, gathering his notes. They had been working with a team to explore phenomena beyond the galaxy's edge, combining human theoretical work with Shadowhunter practical knowledge. Swift's form shifted in agreement, and together they headed toward the research wing. Around them, humans and aliens worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the pursuit of knowledge. The galaxy's most feared predator had become its greatest teacher, and humanity's willingness to look past fear had helped make it possible. As they walked, Tom reflected on how a simple choice to trust, rather than fear, had changed the course of galactic history. The new era wasn't just about advanced technology or shared knowledge. It was about the power of understanding to overcome prejudice, a friendship to defeat fear. The stars seemed brighter now, full of possibility rather than danger. In the end, the galaxy's greatest predator had turned out to be fear itself, and together, they had conquered it.